The reason I do must start and sit defense videos on a weekly basis during the fantasy season is because if you do not have access to any of the top 12 defenses in my rankings that I put out earlier in the week, there are defenses that I believe you can play and do have upside in this week in fantasy football. So we're going through week one. I'm so excited for this weekend, and make sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to show your support because I'm doing everything I can to get us all ready. So we're starting out with this first matchup right here. It's tonight's matchup, Green Bay at the Philadelphia Eagles here. And with this matchup right here, I don't think either of them are really playable. I think that this is going to be a potentially high scoring game, and Green Bay's defense in particular, I'm not huge on. I think they have personnel that can absolutely make them a viable defense at some point this year, but right now we're not at that point with the Green Bay Packers. Last year they were atrocious, and I think a lot of it was based on coaching, but I don't know if they got the coaching right, so I'm not taking the chance this week against a Kellen Moore-led Philadelphia Eagles offense. Now with the Eagles here, I actually like their defense a lot. I think the Eagles defense is going to be great in a lot of weeks this year. I don't think this is their week. The Packers were one of the hottest teams to end the year last year. They have Jordan Love in his second season as a full-time starter locked up with a bunch of young talent in their rookie deals and a new running back one with Josh Jacobs. I do not think this is going to be a matchup that you could take advantage of with the Eagles here because I think that they will provide a lot of upside later, but I don't think this is the week where you could play either one of these, so they're going to be sits for me this week. Now, the next matchup is the Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints here. Now, obviously, you saw the Saints inside my top 10 in this week's rankings. You can absolutely play the Saints. Look, the Carolina Panthers, I do think will be better offensively this year. I think they're going to take a big step up with Dave Canales, but I don't think it's going to be one that we'll see right away. I think this one will be a slower build as they continue to gel together. And I ultimately do think that Bryce Young just isn't that fantastic a quarterback. And I think the Saints actually do have a pretty good defense, so they're pretty much a locked and loaded start this week for whoever's got them on their team. Now, the Panthers, I believe you can flex them. I think you can flex them. You also saw them in my top 12 rankings this week, mainly because of, like I said in the video, the Saints offense, I just don't think is very good. Like, their offense they made no personnel moves during the offseason. This is a stable, stagnant, stale offense that just did nothing that was actually good this year. The only thing that people can count on is maybe Clint Kubiak comes in and cleans up Derek Carr's game a little bit and distributes to more playmakers like Rashid Shaheed and A.T. Perry. But this offense is so reliant on Derek Carr obviously being the quarterback that I don't think it's going to be great. So even if the Saints end up winning this game, the Panthers could force a turnover too, which why I think that you could absolutely play them this week. Now, the Minnesota Vikings are at the New York Giants for our next matchup here, and the Vikings defense is obviously a must-start defense. I think the Vikings defense going up against Daniel Jones, any defense that goes up against Daniel Jones is a good defense. But the Vikings defense made personnel moves this offseason. They obviously went defense in round one. And they also have a good defensive coordinator with Brian Flores in that room. So I think that he puts it all together, and the Vikings will be a stout defense this year. And the matchup is excellent. I think the matchup is excellent. While week one is super hard to predict, I think this Giants offense is going to be a mess for the majority of the season because Daniel Jones is just simply not very good. And then the Giants here, I think you can flex them because I think Minnesota wins this game. I want to get that out of the way. The reason I think you can flex the Giants defense this week is because with Sam Darnold at quarterback, you can count on an interception at least. Sam Darnold is one of the most mistake-prone quarterbacks over the last 5 years that we've seen ever be a starter. I mean, this is a guy who obviously had the famous "I'm seeing ghosts" comment several years ago against the Patriots when he was a Jet, and it's a guy that's just never cleaned up mistakes. Like, he is somebody that will absolutely throw a disgusting interception basically every single week you watch him. So, again, I don't think that the Giants are going to win this game. I don't think it may be particularly close, but I do think that the Giants have upside here because they have a good pass rush, and they're also playing against Sam Darnold, who is extremely mistake-prone. Now, the next matchup here, the New England Patriots at the Cincinnati Bengals. You smash start the Cincinnati Bengals defense. They're the number one defense on my rankings this week, and I think that they're going to be a fantastic start. I just think the Patriots stink. I mean, the Patriots are going to stink this year. Jacoby Brissett is injured right now. Like, this offense is just a mess. So Patriots are going to be basically every team that plays them is going to be a must-start defense, and the Bengals here I think are in great position. I will say, the reason these videos are important is because of this right here. The New England Patriots, I believe, are a flexible defense. Now, you'll be interested to see just how high they're ranked on my top 32 complete rankings that you can see on Patreon. So if you want to check those out, there's a link in the description to go check out the Patreon if you want to see the top 32. The New England Patriots, I think, are playable this week because they're playing the Bengals this week. And in week 1, historically, under Joe Burrow, they have not been good the first several weeks of the season. They're not a very polished team right away. Joe Burrow is obviously coming off another injury to start the offseason. Jamar Chase situation is obviously not a good one, and I think that ultimately the Bengals will turn the ball over a couple times. And the Patriots they're not weak defensively. That's probably the strongest part of their team is their defense because they have personnel and Gerard Mayo is a defensive coach. So if there's one part of the Patriots that you can maybe rely on certain weeks, it's their defense. And I do think that based on the Bengals' history in week 1, the Patriots are a playable defense this week. They're not ideal by any means, but they're playable for sure. Now, the next matchup here, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, the Falcons are must start. They're top tier. You absolutely play the Falcons. They're going up against one of the most atrocious offenses in the entire NFL, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Run by Russell Wilson and whenever Justin Fields plays. But Russell Wilson is obviously coming out week 1, and this offense is going to be horrific. It's going to be horrific. So the Falcons defense, they've made personnel moves this offseason. I think they'll be better than they were last season, and I think that they're going to absolutely keep Pittsburgh to like 10 points maximum this week. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think are flexible. I think they're totally flexible this week because the Steelers defense is strong. They do have a defensive culture. They do create turnovers. They do get after the quarterback. And I think the Falcons are going to be maybe off to a slow start. I mean, Kirk Cousins is coming off an Achilles tear at 35, 36 years old. This is a guy who I don't think that anybody should expect that they're going to come out right away and be really, really high scoring. And so I think that there's a decent potential for turnovers / mistakes made by the Atlanta Falcons offense, which is why I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are definitely playable this week. Now, the Houston Texans are going to Indianapolis to take on the Colts as well. And this is not a great defensive week. I think this could be a potentially high scoring game. Now, divisional matchups, I say this every year, they're hard to predict. And week 1 is obviously hard to predict. But divisional matchups are tough. The Houston Texans are probably the defense I would trust the most because the Indianapolis Colts are a little bit of a mystery with Anthony Richardson still, and the Texans do have very, very strong personnel defensively. I love their defense. I think they're going to have a lot of weekends where they're like top 5, top 3 defenses. I don't think it'll be this week, but it is one that you could play if you have a good feeling or if you're just kind of desperate at defense. And then Indianapolis here, I like their defense. I think they'll have good weeks. I don't think it'll be against Texans. This is an offense, obviously, with CJ Stroud coming into the second year, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. This is going to be a weapons-happy offense. They're going to throw they're going to score a lot of points. I don't think that this is the week where you want to take the shot on the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Arizona Cardinals go to the Buffalo Bills to take on the Bills, and I think the Bills are the best play in this matchup here. I will say that the Bills defense, I actually like them probably more than a lot of other people do for the entire season, and I think the Cardinals are going to be a good offense. I think the Cardinals with Kyler Murray, with Marvin Harris Jr., with Trey McBride, with James Conner, they're going to be a good offense here. Now, I think the Bills win this game. I think they could cause a couple turnovers, which is why I think they're playable. But I don't think this is going to be a smash start this week. So I wouldn't say go out and try to play the Bills, but they're going to be a startable defense this week. Now, with the Cardinals here, you don't start the Cardinals this week. There's zero upside, in my opinion. Josh Allen, coming into week 1, I don't think that this is going to be a good matchup for the Cardinals. And the Cardinals, I don't think that they have a great defense in particular. So if you want to play the Cardinals, keep an eye on them, I guess, but don't rely on them this early on in the season against the Buffalo Bills. Now, the next matchup here, the Tennessee Titans at the Chicago Bears. Play the Bears defense this week. The Tennessee Titans are an offense that I've discussed all offseason as a really good potential sleeper offense this year. They've got a lot of new weapons, obviously, in the wide receiver room. They got Tony Pollard over there now. They upgraded the offensive line, and Will Levis, it all is going to come down to him. That's why I don't think they're going to come out hot. Like, they made so many good moves offensively with personnel and coaching. They totally shifted the team culture to offense. The Bears have a strong defense, and the Titans do not have an offense that I think is ready week 1 to dominate. The Bears defense, they're going to come in hot. Like, the Bears defense, their pass rush last year ended on a really high note when Montez Sweat got there. And obviously, they've got a great front seven as a whole with Terrell Edmonds and TJ Edwards over there. Now, I think that the Titans here, you can't play them, but they were on the border of me putting them as flexible. The reason I think they may be flexible is because they are playing the Bears, and the Bears, with a rookie quarterback, you just don't know what to expect week 1. I think Caleb Williams will come out hot, which is why I ultimately decided to say sit the Titans this week. But the Titans this year, I think have a sleeper defense. This is a sleeper defense to watch this year. I think they could be really good, but I don't think I'm relying on them in week 1 versus a really high-powered offense with a rookie quarterback that is one of the best I've ever seen coming out of college. So this next matchup here, the Jacksonville Jaguars go to the Miami Dolphins, and this is a sit defense matchup here. You do not play either defense here because the Miami Dolphins lost a lot of personnel that matters. Christian Wilkins, he's gone. Vic Fangio, the defense coordinator last year, he's gone. This Dolphins defense is taking a step back this year. And just against the Jaguars here, an offense led by Trevor Lawrence, who is not exactly the best quarterback in the league, but he's definitely talented. And this offense as a whole is talented, run by Doug Peterson. Don't play the Dolphins this week, and definitely don't play the Jags. Do not play the Jags when they're going to Miami at the beginning of the season to play the Dolphins. The Dolphins will score a bunch of points in this matchup, and you do not want anything to do with the defense that plays the Dolphins at home in their first 5 to 6 weeks of NFL action. Stay away from any defense that plays the Miami Dolphins in the first 6 weeks, especially the Jags this week. Now, the Denver Broncos at the Seattle Seahawks. This is, in my opinion, one of the most interesting matchups to watch of the entire week. It's not going to be very high scoring, I don't think. I think this is a 13 to 16 to 17 type of game. I prefer the Denver Broncos defense over the Seahawks if I did play one because I think the Broncos defense is strong. And I also think that the Seahawks offense is weak at quarterback. Make it clear. I don't think they're very good at quarterback. I don't think Geno Smith's very good. So if I had to play one, it would be the Broncos defense here. But the Seahawks is playable too. They're taking on a rookie quarterback. Now, the reason I don't have as much faith in the Seahawks, I think that Bo Nix and Sean Payton are going to mesh really well right away. And they're going to surprise a lot of people this year. The Seahawks defense is talented though, and they're a defensive culture still, which makes me want to play them. Like I said, I don't have confidence in either, but they're definitely both playable, and I cannot wait to watch this matchup just out of complete curiosity how this game turns out, because both these teams, a lot of ways, are a mystery for me. They're both playable, but I would not rely on either if you have better options. Now, the next matchup here, the Las Vegas Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers here this week are a play. You definitely play the Chargers this week. I've said it all offseason. This defense is going to be so much better in fantasy now because Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh stabilizes the defense in a way that Brandon Staley just did the opposite. He ripped them apart because they have personnel. They had it before Harbaugh got there, and they were just underperforming. That shows how much Brandon Staley sucks, and we're going to see how good Jim Harbaugh is if you're not familiar with him. I don't know how you couldn't be familiar with Harbaugh at this point, but he does two things. He runs the ball down your throat, and he plays good defense. They've got the personnel, and they're taking on the Vegas Raiders offense here, which I just don't think is very good this year. Led by Gardner Minshew, who may throw for a decent amount of yards some weeks, also mistake prone. So the Chargers, I can expect them to have 2 to 3 turnovers this week. And I also think the Raiders are a very flexible defense this week. Not only because I love the Raiders defense this year, I'm big on them. You should know this by now if you've watched any of my rankings videos this offseason. I think the Raiders defense is in good position this week against the Chargers because I think the Chargers, it's going to be the week where you could feel confident playing a defense. Chargers offense is a work in progress. They're going to be fine. They're not going to be terrible, but obviously the receivers are total mystery, and even their running back field is a total mystery still too. So they're a work in progress, which makes them a little vulnerable to start the season, and the Raiders defense is so good this year. I cannot get enough of them. So they're flexible, they're playable, but I would not say that they're a must start this week. Now the next matchup here, the Dallas Cowboys at the Cleveland Browns. The Cowboys defense is a must start defense, I think. They're a little shaky, I guess, because the Browns aren't a bad team at this point. But I ultimately do think that they're a good defense to play this week because the Cowboys defense is obviously very strong, and the Browns have Deshaun Watson at quarterback. I don't trust Deshaun Watson at all. And the problem that I have with the Cowboys, which is why they're not ranked higher, is because Deron Bland is going to miss the start of the season. They also have a lot of linebacking injuries to start the season as well. I ultimately believe in them because they're great defense run by Mike Zimmer, and I love their secondary coach, former player Al Harris. But I also do think that this is a little bit on the riskier side, if I had to say so. But definitely is still a good start. Browns defense, I would sit them. The Cowboys have pretty historically been pretty strong week one. And I think that with CeeDee Lamb there now, with Dak Prescott, I think they'll come out and have a pretty strong showing. Browns are not a horrible play, and they will be better in a lot of other weeks. I don't think this is their week right here against the Cowboys, though, in week one. Washington Commanders here at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay is a good start this week. I think they're a good start because, again, you're facing a rookie quarterback, and their weapons are okay. I like the potential of them in fantasy. Like, I started taking Terry McLaurin more in drafts, and I also have talked about Brian Robinson Jr. a lot as a really good breakout player this year. But I don't think that it's similar to the Titans and the Bears, maybe, where it's like, I don't think they'll be great week one. I think this is an offense that will get better as they gel and they become more familiar with each other. So I think the Bucs are a strong play. I think the Bucs actually might have a pretty good defense this year. So the Commanders, I don't think you can play them. I don't trust their defense, number one. And number two, the Bucs are going to be fine offensively. I don't think they'll be as strong as last year because they don't have Dave Canales, but I'm not relying on the Commanders this week. The Sunday night game, the Los Angeles Rams at the Detroit Lions here, they're both sits. This is another Philadelphia-Green Bay matchup where it's like, you do not want to play a defense in this high-scoring potential matchup here. The Rams defense, definitely not against the Detroit Lions, and the Detroit Lions here, there's more potential issues that the Rams have offensively week one than there is with the Lions. But either way, like these are not defenses that you want to play this week. So just do not touch either one of these defenses right away. The last matchup of the week, the Monday night game, the Jets at the 49ers. You can play the 49ers defense at your own risk. That's what I'll say. 49ers defense is strong. They're going to be a lot stronger this year without Steve Wilks. I think that was an addition by subtraction move, and it'll be an interesting week to watch because the Jets are a total mystery still to me personally. I don't have as much trust in Aaron Rodgers as maybe some do, but I also look at the 49ers defense. There's injuries obviously to Drake Greenlaw, there's injuries to other players as well, so I don't love their defense right now. But I do think they're playable against the Jets this week. The Jets defense, this is not a week to play them, I don't think. It's just the 49ers offense at home in week one. I don't trust the Jets defense to be able to keep up. I don't think they're going to make many mistakes against the Jets defense as well. So I just would stay away from the Jets defense in week one. So let me know what defense you're playing this week in the comments below. And if you want to see the top 12 defense rankings for week one, click on this video right here.